Good evening. Welcome to Emo Nightly News, every moment online. In tonight's news headlines, Fontaine criticizes government's handling of national budget. CDB announces landmark US $1 million contribution to Venezuela's recovery. Port worker Otis Francis laid to rest following tragic workplace accident. New election law clarifies who can vote during voter confirmation. FIFA President Infantino accused of deception by three major confederations. And Dominica basketball playoff finals set to tip off next week. Details of these stories and more coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your presenter, Rick Francis, and this is a news broadcast for the 12th of August, 2026. In local news this evening, United Workers' Party leader and economist Dr. Thompson Fontaine is criticizing the government's handling of the national budget, arguing that its decisions on the allocation of scarce resources have significant implications for Dominica's development. Fontaine was speaking at the UWP's post-budget discussion, where he examined the importance of the budget, the country's economic performance, and the policy choices outlined in this year's estimates.
The choice that you make will have some implication. So your ability and the government's ability to deal with that challenge of scarce resources on the one hand, the competing policy objectives, the government's ability to understand those challenges and to adequately allocate the resources will make a tremendous difference in the outlook for the country. And one of the things that you will notice, just to mention, one of the things that you will notice with respect to the budget of Dominica, if you just look through the figures, a lot of people say, but why are you spending so little on agriculture? Okay, it seems that this, and that is where, as we go through the numbers and the figures, you'll see where I believe this Labour Party government has gotten it wrong. They have not had the ability to really understand the challenge of development in a country like ours. And because of that failure to understand that, then we have some issues.
Fontaine provided a historical review of Dominica's revenues over the past 5 years, focusing on tax and non-tax revenue. He highlighted the country's growing reliance on non-tax revenue, particularly funds associated with the Citizenship by Investment program, and warned that any decline in these revenues could have serious implications for government spending and development projects.
But look at the non-tax revenue. The non-tax revenue, where about 90 to 95% of that is from the CDI program. So the CDI makes up most of it, but look at the difference between your tax revenues and the non-tax revenues. The non-tax revenues are increasing very, incrementally or by, more incrementally, significantly over the years. So you start with $500 million in 2023, it moved to 645. Then 788, 659, and this year the budget is down by about $100 million. All right, and the reason is because of the issues that is being encountered right now with the CDI. So what we're seeing here is a country where our main resource in terms of the financing of the budget comes from the CDI program. So that has tremendous implications for the country. Because if you're not able to grow your revenues, your tax revenues, what you collect from within the country, then you're in problems. Most countries that do really, really well, their revenues from taxation is about 60 to 70% of the total revenues.
The economist also compared Dominica's economic performance with other countries in the region, pointing to what he described as weak economic growth. He argued that stronger economic growth is critical to increasing government revenue, noting that the country's low growth rate has limited its ability to generate additional resources to address pressing national priorities. Fontaine also examined several policy measures announced in the budget, promising a critical assessment of the government's approach and outlining how the United Workers' Party would address key challenges. He said the presentation would conclude with the party's own policy prescriptions and its proposed way forward for Dominica. Recent amendments to Dominica's election laws have brought important clarification regarding who is entitled to vote if an election is held while the voter confirmation process is ongoing. The amendments, which came into effect in August 2026, address Section 14 of the Registration of Electors Act and the list that can be used during an election. Previously, if an election was held during the confirmation period, those entitled to vote included persons on the adopted list, persons who had been confirmed, and new voters whose names appeared on the quarterly supplementary list. This meant that persons who registered after the publication of the most recent supplementary list but before the election writ was issued would not have been entitled to vote.
Prior to the amendments, the persons who were entitled to vote if an election takes place during the confirmation period were 1. Persons who were on the adopted list, that is of May 2025, persons who were confirmed, and new voters whose name appeared on the quarterly supplementary list.
The amendments have now addressed that issue, allowing persons who are registered up to the date the election writ is issued to be eligible to vote in the election. The change is particularly significant as Dominica continues its voter confirmation process and prepares for the upcoming Roseau North by-election.
In practical terms, this means that the issuance of the writs does not automatically prevent persons who completed their registration before that date from voting. If a person was properly registered by the relevant deadline and is included on the applicable voters list, that person may be eligible to vote in the elections, subject to the requirements of the law.
The Chief Elections Officer explains that the amendments provide greater clarity on the electoral list to be used when an election is called during the confirmation period.
The amendment, therefore, provides greater clarity regarding the cutoff date for the voter registration and ensures that persons who become registered electors before the writs were issued are not excluded merely because the registration occurred shortly before the elections were formally called.
The Discover Dominica Authority is undertaking its annual destination sales mission to Trinidad from August 12 to 18, 2026, as part of efforts to strengthen Dominica's presence in one of its key regional markets. The mission will target Trinidadian consumers, travel professionals, media representatives, and the Dominican diaspora through mall activations, media engagements, business-to-business meetings, and a destination networking event. The DDA will be joined by tourism stakeholders from Dominica as well as Counter Airlines, which is scheduled to begin direct service between Trinidad and Dominica on October 5, 2026. The new air service is expected to provide additional opportunities to attract visitors from Trinidad, particularly ahead of the World Creole Music Festival from October 23 to 25, as well as Dominica's Carnival in February 2027.
Trinidad continues to be an important regional market for Dominica, and our annual sales mission allows us to engage directly with customers, media, and travel trade partners. From August 12th to the 18th, we'll be promoting Dominica's year-round tourism offerings, the World Creole Music Festival and the Carnival, while also building awareness of Contour Airlines' direct service between Trinidad and Dominica, beginning October 5th. We'll also meet customers at West Mall, Eastgates Mall, and C3 Center, and we encourage Trinidadians to come out and meet Dominica's team and learn more about planning their next trip to the Nature Island.
During the mission, consumer activations will be held at West Mall on August 13, Eastgates Mall on August 14, and C3 Center on August 15. Visitors will have an opportunity to learn more about Dominica's tourism experiences, accommodations, air access, and upcoming events. The mission will also include radio, television, and print media engagements. On August 17, attention will turn to the travel trade, with Dominican tourism partners meeting with Trinidad-based travel agents and other industry representatives to promote their properties and services and explore new business opportunities. The engagement will conclude with a destination cocktail reception, bringing together tourism stakeholders, Contour Airlines, travel agents, tour operators, and media representatives. Through the initiative, the Discover Dominica Authority is seeking to increase destination awareness and encourage more Trinidadian travelers to experience the Nature Island. Veteran stevedore Otis Francis was laid to rest today following a funeral procession from the Woodbridge Bay Port to the St. Alphonsus Catholic Church. Francis, 47 of Tarish Peat, died on Friday, July 17, 2026, after sustaining injuries in a workplace accident at the Woodbridge Bay Port, also known as Forcolay. Francis was reportedly struck by a shipping container while engaged in overnight cargo unloading operations. Today, colleagues, family members, friends, and well-wishers came together to pay their final respects, with the procession from the port serving as a poignant tribute to a man who spent years working as a stevedore. Francis was remembered for his years of service and contribution to port operations in Dominica. Following the procession, mourners gathered at the St. Alphonsus Catholic Church for the funeral service, as family and colleagues said their final goodbye to Mr. Otis Francis. And that's all for local news this evening. Stay tuned for regional news coming up next.
Tico, that's $800. Cash or card?
When cash is low, Tico is still ready.
Always card, Chalo. Would you like a copy of the receipt?
No, Chalo. NBD already sent me the alert and I'll see it on Mo Banking later. That is it. From card to farm. Power your business with the NBD Small Business Credit Card. Your partner, your bank.
In regional news this evening, the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, has announced a landmark US $1 million contribution to the recovery and reconstruction of Venezuela. The funding comes less than 2 months after twin quakes rocked the South American nation in June. More than 5,000 people were killed during the massive quakes. CDB's funding followed approval by its board of directors. The fund provides an accountable mechanism through which governments, institutions, and development partners can contribute to Venezuela's recovery efforts. A sitting judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice is warning that turmoil within the court could deepen concerns about its credibility. Reports from media implied that Justice Arif Balkan made the warning in leaked correspondence, saying the court's independence could be threatened if its president overrides a majority of judges. The disclosures follow allegations of panel manipulation involving CCJ President Justice Adrian Saunders and Justice Chile Ibo Osuji. The allegations have not been independently verified or tested by any tribunal. The CCJ says claims made without context may be mischaracterized and maintains its commitment to judicial independence and integrity. And that's all for regional news this evening. Stay tuned for international news coming up next.
Blast Gaming presents its biggest job whatever. Blast Mystery Progressive. I'm so excited. I can't hide it. In your blast up and rising. And I like it. It going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up and up and up and up.
Play selected games to win in the Blast Mystery Progressive. Pick until you match 3 gems and win one of the 5 cash jackpots. Or you can blast up with the Mystery Progressive jackpot.
It's going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up. Blast Gaming.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino has been accused of breaking trust through deception by 3 major football confederations, namely UEFA, CONCACAF, and the Asian Football Confederation. In a joint open letter, the groups criticized FIFA's handling of the abandoned FIFA Forward Enterprise proposal, which would have created a company to manage commercial and ticketing rights, including for the World Cup, with a 21% stake sold to private investors. The plan was dropped after strong opposition led by UEFA, which has threatened to boycott FIFA competitions. The 3 confederations said FIFA's admission of mistakes did not go far enough, calling the proposal a fundamental breach of trust and demanding greater accountability and an independent review. Sources say the letter is also being viewed as a message for Infantino to resign rather than seek re-election next March. There have also been preliminary discussions about alternative competitions if a FIFA boycott goes ahead, although no firm plans have been announced. Infantino continues to have support from South America, Africa, and some CONCACAF and Asian nations, but pressure is mounting as football faces an unprecedented split over his leadership. Syria's ousted President Bashar al-Assad and his younger brother Maher have been sentenced to death in absentia for crimes against humanity and war crimes committed during the country's 14-year civil war. Assad's maternal cousin, former security chief Atef Nahib, was also sentenced to death. He was convicted of overseeing a crackdown in Dara in 2011 after teenagers were arrested and tortured for anti-government graffiti. The crackdown helped spark nationwide protests that escalated into a civil war, leaving around 500,000 people dead. Assad and Maher fled to Russia following the fall of the government and were granted asylum. Syria's new authorities have called on Moscow to hand them over. And that's all for international news this evening. Stay tuned for the sports segment coming up next.
Coming up on the outside.
Sit down.
Dina coming up on the outside.
Looky. No way.
Welcome to the sports segment. The stage is set for the Dominica Basketball Association's Best of 5 playoff finals, with the action tipping off next week at the Massac Indoor Sports Complex. The finals will feature competition in both the Premier Division and First Division as teams battle for championship honors. Games are scheduled for the 18th, 20th and 22nd of August with tip-off times at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Basketball fans are being encouraged to come out and support their teams as the country's top contenders go head-to-head for the championship title. Dominica recorded mixed results as the 2026 ECVA Men's and Women's Volleyball Championships got underway in Tortola, British Virgin Islands, earlier today. The Dominica men's team opened its campaign on a winning note, defeating Bermuda 3-1. Dominica claimed the opening 2 sets, 25-19 and 25-22, before Bermuda fought back to take the third, 25-22. The Dominican men then sealed the victory by winning the 4th set, 25-21. Meanwhile, the Dominica women's team battled through 5 sets but narrowly went down 3-2 to Anguilla. Anguilla took the opening set 25-18 before Dominica responded strongly to win the second 25-13. Anguilla regained the advantage with a 25-20 third set victory, but Dominica forced a deciding 5th set after dominating the 4th 25-8. In a tense final set, Anguilla edged Dominica 16-14 to secure the match. The ECVA Men's and Women's Volleyball Championships continue in Tortola through August 16, with both Dominican teams continuing their quest for regional honors. And that's all for the sports segment this evening. Stay tuned for the weather report coming up next. And this brings us to the end of tonight's news broadcast for the 12th of August, 2026. I'm your presenter, Rick Francis. On behalf of the entire newscast, we say thank you for viewing. This is Emo Nightly News, every moment online. Have a good evening.